On February 20th, 2005, Hunter S. Thompson placed a revolver to his head and ended his life. He left behind a short, chilling note titled, "Football season is over," addressed to his wife. In it, he wrote, "Relax. This won't hurt." There's a famous photograph of him standing alone in the Colorado wilderness. Snow piles at his feet, a cigarette dangles from his lips, and his eyes, part wild, part mournful, stare into the camera like a man confronting something beyond himself. Somewhere between outlaw and oracle, Thompson embodied a paradox that many creative souls quietly endure: the tension between brilliance and self-destruction. But the story isn't just his. It's a story echoed in countless artists, thinkers, and dreamers throughout history, people who burn with a rare fire and are often consumed by it. What is it about creativity that brings both illumination and despair? Perhaps we start here. To be creative is to live in a heightened state of sensitivity, to see too much, feel too deeply, and care too fiercely. The artist walks through the world with the skin torn off, absorbing colors and tragedies, melodies and silences, until the pressure inside demands release. And yet, that same intensity often alienates them from the ordinary rhythms of life. Thompson once wrote, "The edge. There is no honest way to explain it because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have gone over." In this cryptic sentence lies a deep, unspoken truth of creativity. It flirts with madness. The edge he refers to is not simply danger, it is that place where creation and collapse hold hands. Vincent van Gogh painted luminous fields of wheat and starlit skies while teetering on the verge of psychological ruin. Sylvia Plath conjured aching beauty in language even as despair curled around her like smoke. David Foster Wallace dissected the loneliness of modern life with surgical clarity, while grappling with a loneliness so personal it eventually claimed him. Is this inevitable? Must artistic vision be purchased at the cost of emotional suffering? There's a cruel irony here. Society often romanticizes the tortured artist, the rebel poet, the manic genius. But beneath the myth is often a person silently unraveling, lonely, misunderstood, or lost in the vast terrain of their own mind. For creatives, the world is not just observed, it's felt in ways that can become unbearable. Their antennae are always tuned to frequencies others ignore. And yet, without that sensitivity, the art wouldn't be possible. To be a creative person, then, is to live suspended between necessity and danger. You must feel enough to say something meaningful, but feel too much, and you might not survive the saying. So what kind of life is this? What does it mean to carry the gift that both creates and destroys? Imagine a lighthouse keeper living alone by the sea. Each night, he tends the flame that warns ships of the rocks below. The light saves others, but he himself remains surrounded by darkness, isolated, weather-beaten. This image is not far from the internal world of many creatives, illuminating others while stumbling through their own shadowed corridors. Hunter S. Thompson's writings blazed with wit and prophetic unease. He diagnosed American hypocrisy with a scalpel. But underneath his gonzo bravado lay a man relentlessly wrestling with himself. He did not merely observe the chaos of the world, he ingested it, processed it through his bloodstream, and bled it onto the page. That's a heavy toll to pay for insight. The paradox deepens. Creativity demands solitude to grow, yet loneliness often poisons the very roots it nourishes. This is not just literary tragedy. Neuroscience suggests a link between heightened creativity and vulnerability to mood disorders. The same openness that allows for original thought, divergent thinking as psychologists call it, also makes one more susceptible to depression, anxiety, and existential dread. The boundaries between self and world become porous, the emotional filters thin. But not all creatives implode. Some find ways to live with the paradox, to walk the line without falling off. Take Leonard Cohen. His life was a quiet dialogue with despair, but instead of drowning, he sat with it, wrote it into songs that ache with honesty, and then, somehow, smiled. He once said, "There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. Maybe the key is not to seal the cracks, but to let them shine." Creativity, then, might be less about brilliance and more about bearing witness to pain, to joy, to everything in between. The creative person is not a hero or a victim, but a conduit, carrying what the world does not yet have language for. Still, the danger remains. The more you open, the more you risk being undone. To make art is to build a bridge between silence and speech. But what if you never find the other shore? The tension is not just psychological, it's existential. Jean-Paul Sartre wrote that, "Man is condemned to be free." The creative person is doubly condemned, free to imagine infinite worlds, yet bound to live in just one. They see what could be, what should be, what must never be, and must somehow reconcile it all with what is. And sometimes, that reconciliation is impossible. So the question lingers, is the creative life worth the risk? Or is it a beautiful, necessary madness we haven't yet learned how to hold? On February 20th, 2005, Hunter S. Thompson placed a revolver to his head and ended his life. There is no romance in that moment, only the unbearable weight of a mind that could no longer carry itself. But the paradox survives him, because even now, people read his words and feel understood. They laugh, they wince, they wake up. Something in his brutal honesty still stirs the blood. His gift did not die with him. It scattered like ash across the minds of strangers who needed to know they weren't alone. Perhaps that is the unbearable burden of being a creative person, to suffer privately in order to speak publicly. But must it always be this way? Must the price of clarity be pain? Or have we, as a culture, failed to offer creative people another way to live? We celebrate the products of imagination, but neglect the minds that make them. We praise visionaries for their insight, but leave them isolated in their vision. We romanticize madness as though it were fuel rather than fire. And yet, what if the fire is not meant to be extinguished, but contained? What if the artist does not need to burn out, but to be held by community, by understanding, by the quiet permission to rest? We might start by letting go of the myth of the suffering genius, by allowing creative minds to be ordinary, flawed, and afraid, by remembering that the goal of art is not to destroy the artist, but to connect us all. Still, the paradox remains. There is something in creativity that resists resolution. It pulls in two directions at once, toward beauty and toward oblivion. It gives life and threatens it. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the creative person is not here to find peace, but to show us where it hides, not to escape the darkness, but to map its contours, to draw constellations on its walls, so that others might walk through it less afraid. And so we return to the beginning. A man stands alone in the snow. The sky is gray, the air sharp with silence. He lights a cigarette. Behind him, a trail of words. Ahead of him, nothing but mist. And still, he walks. Still, he writes. Because maybe, just maybe, the question was never how to save the creative person from their paradox, but how to walk with them into it.